Hey, New Hope. Pastor Tommy here with this week's sermon recap and update. This week was super interesting with regard to the sermon because within hours after posting the sermon or streaming it live, we had twice as many hits or views of the sermon as we did of our Easter sermon from the whole week. In other words, several hours of views doubled what we had a whole week for Easter. And a lot of people speculated, like, why was that? It's all of a sudden the views are going crazy. And of course, part of me is like, finally people realize how awesome I am. Not really, not if you saw the sermon. A lot of people were sharing it. A lot of people were talking about it. And I suspect the reason for that, the reason for its popularity, the reason for the attention it got was because of the title, right? All of these Sermon on the Mount sermons begin with living your best life. But this one was living your best life, loving your enemies. And all of us have enemies. All of us have people who have hurt us. Some of us have people who have abused us. Everyone has someone they need to forgive. And so I suspect that's part of the reason it touched a nerve with people. I mean, honestly, if you saw the sermon, it touched a nerve with me several times. That I have been hurt, I have been abused, I have been made an enemy oftentimes. And so you remember also that there was hope in this. There was hope in the fact that we have been forgiven enables us to begin to forgive. A lot of people will say, oh, you just need to forgive and forget, or you just need to give it up. And you know what? If you've been abused or hurt, you don't forget, I know. And so what you need is a better strategy. You need a strategy that centers on the gospel, a strategy that centers on forgiveness. And so one of the things I thought I would do is, for those of you who are interested in digging deeper into this topic, is to basically commend to you a book. And the book is Bold Love by Dan Allender and Tremper Longman. And I can't commend this book to you enough. Among the things that they talk about in the book are knowing the difference between loving an evil person, a fool, and a normal sinner, what it means to honor a wicked parent, why anger usually outlives forgiveness, and how to love an abusive person without opening yourself up to more damage, right? Those are all very relevant topics. And so also, if you remember, if you haven't watched the sermon yet, you remember at the end of the sermon, I told you my strategy, at least one of them, for trying to love my enemies, that I really believe that's important. But also, if you didn't see it, you missed me the profound effect that it has had on my life, what I have been doing to try and love my enemies. It's done more for me, I think, certainly than for them. And so I would commend to you again, if you haven't watched the sermon, watch it. Maybe you need to watch the ending again to get a little motivation, because I also gave a challenge to people that to find someone or to concentrate their forgiveness on one person this week. Is there someone in your life you need to forgive? Is there someone with whom you need reconciliation? Pray about that. Think about that. And finally, if you find these updates helpful, if you find our sermons helpful, right, I have to say this, right, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like them, and don't forget to share them if you find them helpful. So I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that we're able to provide this teaching online, and I'm happy to come and give you a recap. So basically what Jesus said was, you've heard it said, love your neighbor but hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies so that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. And so I commend that to you. I encourage you to do that. And remember also, I said in the sermon that God doesn't expect us really to be perfect, but we are perfect. And he expects us to be what we are, which means we can start trying. So have a good week. The Lord bless you and keep you and make his face shine upon you. Amen.